this farming property, it's only a fairly small property in context of the of what's around nowadays, but we've got about 1,600 hectares of that. About 400 is bush, and about a third of it, or even up to 40%, is either waterlogged or saline. So we've to keep productive and to keep viable, we've had to change our farming practices over the years, and the main thing we've done is started to introduce perennials and saltland pastures into our farming system. We are mainly merino sheep, and which take bring about 60% of our income, and then about 40% is cropping. The reason we've got that mix is because a lot of our country is not croppable, particularly in a wet year. It gets waterlogged, so livestock are our main option, and to stay viable, as I said before, we have to just keep that land productive. And the main way we've done that is through these perennials, and we're standing in a paddock of perennials here now that was produced, established last year, so it's about 12 months old. It's come through a very dry year, a very dry summer, an early finish, but has taken very well, and so they're quite easy to establish once you get the system into place. And because of the very late start this year, it's been grazed very, very heavily for a long period of time, and which is not good for perennials, but that's just the way we've had to do it this year. Things like lucerne and tall wheatgrass, tall wheatgrass can take a fair pounding, but we really need to give things like the lucerne a spell, but unfortunately we haven't been able to do it this year. This particular paddock is not, in where we're standing, is not all that salty, but as you can see, it's very flat. We've got very shallow water tables, and so it's under threat of salinity into the future. The other end of the paddock is quite salty, with just Puccinellia growing, and to stop the rest of the paddock going saline, we've established these perennials, and the trees on the higher side, where the water's actually coming from, and with the two in combination, we hope that'll at least keep the water table to a level where it's not going to encroach on our production. This sort of country normally runs about 7 or 8 DSEs. We intend to get that up to 11 or 12, and even on our more marginal land, we believe it can run 12, 13 or 14, even up to 14 DSEs, and that actually gives us a lot more options. We can crop a lot more, or we can keep our cropping at the same level, and or even increase our cropping and still run the same number of sheep. So it actually increases the whole productivity of the farm. It's just one of those things I think we have to do into the future, particularly with land prices going higher and higher, and getting more and more difficult to buy more land. We have to make every cent count, every acre count, with as much a bigger dollar return we can for every hectare we've got. Saline land is not a really big issue. I think we've looking at it the wrong way over the years. We looked at it as a problem. We should look at it as a resource. We're short of water for most of the year in Western Australia, whereas we've got this great underground supply of water, so let's utilise it, and that's been our philosophy over the last 20 years, and it's certainly turned our farm around. We did have a goal of getting rid of all our bare scald within a period of time, and we have achieved that now, with only a few very small areas that are still bare scald. So most of the land is producing one way or another, either with belts of trees for biodiversity, for using water, and for shelter. This part of the landscape It does not naturally grow tall trees, it's mainly heathland, so it was all cleared during the earlier days, just before the war and just after the war, and with mostly shallow rooted type bush. We've now replaced that with bigger trees which are deeper rooted and are using large amounts of water, and they are strategically placed throughout the farm in the watercourse type areas, or where water tends to lie.